you're well. Thank you for tuning in to my video response for chapters 8 and 9. This week we're focusing on how does planning curriculum relate to implementation. Once again, I'll be referencing our Ornstein and Hunkins text in my responses to the questions. So let's start with question 1. How can capacity building facilitate curriculum implementation? As described in the text, capacity building falls within 3 areas, which are professional capacity building, financial capacity building, and civic capacity building. So we'll start with professional capacity building. On page 260, it says, to facilitate implementation, curriculum designers must provide the necessary support for their recommended curricular innovations or modifications. In terms of professional capacity building, we're talking about support in the form of professional development. Professional development allows teachers to become more knowledgeable, more connected, helps to foster cultures of collaboration, and cultivates positive mindsets towards curriculum change, thereby reducing resistance and increasing buy-in. The text also defines capacity on page 260 as resources, knowledge, and skills brought by both teacher and students to the instructional core and the skilled action of the total school organization to support and maximize the delivery and engagement of teachers and students with the implemented curriculum. So in particular, in-service training allows teachers to become more knowledgeable with regards to new curriculum trends and methods and become more connected with the current needs of the time. Professional capacity building also entails facilitating constructive dialogue. On page 261, it states that we need school professionals in constant communion with their colleagues to engage in the exchange of best practices, useful theoretical frameworks, technologies, and mindsets necessary to invoke curriculum change. In terms of capacity building in the civic sense, we're referring to the inclusion of the larger community to ensure that students' needs are being met within the context of their communities. An example of civic capacity building is establishing relationships with community-based organizations to bridge gaps in social capital. Having schools partner with the larger community expands opportunities for mentorship, community service, networking, and the development of other essential non-cognitive skills. On page 261, it states that the expansion of civic capacities includes the involvement of the total community, political players, community advocates, community associations. Education does not take place exclusively within a school building. In terms of financial capacity building, we're referring to the monetary resources required to instill curriculum change. Page 261 of the text states that without adequate financial support, new curricula fail. Schools inevitably require financial resources to make things happen. Financial support is necessary to purchase resources such as software, hardware, technology, and textbooks that support curriculum initiatives. And there is a need to find creative ways to utilize school budgets to implement new curricular initiatives. Just to share, currently one of the challenges my EOF program is facing, as a result of now having to operate remotely, is expending our entire budget. Our program is funded by the state, and we're expected to expend every dollar and cent allocated to us. But with canceled events, no students on campus, no conferences to attend, how are we to do this? Well, we had to put our heads together as a team, get creative, and think about ways to use up our financial resources despite. So we decided to invest in instructional software to continue our supplemental instruction program and subscribe to higher ed webinars to help expand our professional capacity during these unprecedented times. In this case, you can see how different forms of capacity actually work hand in hand toward curricular or programmatic goals. In some, the combination of professional, civic, and financial capacities results in the creation of action space, as noted on page 261, which impacts curriculum workers by, quote, inspiring them to innovate, providing them with exemplars and notes of caution that enable creation and delivery of meaningful curricula. Inevitably, capacity building is heavily impacted by the dynamics of the times, the cultural forces in play, the economic health of the community, and the political theater present. This is on page 261. We can certainly see the importance of this now more than ever with the rapid and unpredictable changes that are unfolding. Schools have had to partner with communities and work with existing resources to continue to deliver education, information, as well as other resources such as food and remote mental health services to students and their families. So question number 2 is, why do people tend to resist change? The text lists 12 reasons why people resist change on page 268. The first is lack of ownership. In this case, we're talking about change from without versus change from within. Many curriculum changes come from the top, therefore creating a sense of being handed down orders to change. It feels differently when you're inspired to create change versus being demanded to make change. Number 2, lack of benefits. Teacher may feel that change does not benefit them or the students. The thought process is, what's in it for us and what's in it for them? I saw this with the launch of the park. Teachers felt like too much instructional time had to be sacrificed in order to teach to this new test. And at the same time, there were concerns about how this test served or didn't serve the needs of students with disabilities, special needs, English language learners, etc. These were some of the reasons for a lot of resistance. I remember several parents opting their children out of the test. Number 3, increased burdens. Change involves an increased workload, engaging in tasks that are outside the scope and flow of daily classroom/school life. Teachers may feel as if they are already overworked, which may contribute to resistance. And on page 266, it states that educators are being pulled in many directions, and understandably that can be frustrating. Number 4 is lack of administrative support. This reflects the need to establish cultures of collaboration, as change cannot occur in a vacuum. It really does take a village. Number 6, insecurity. If a curricular change is perceived as a threat to one's current position or image, then it's taken as too risky. So we're talking about self-preservation. Number 7, norm incongruence. An example that was provided in the text was modernism versus postmodernism, or if the philosophy of the administration is not aligned with the philosophies of the staff. If you have seemingly dichotomous points of view, then there needs to be some type of compromise. Number 8, boredom. Proposed initiatives need to be seen as innovative and exciting to get curriculum workers on board. Number 9, chaos. If a new curriculum initiative is seen as a disruption to the natural order of things, then it can create division. Unfortunately, at the present, we can see how disruption has transformed into the new normal. Did curriculum workers have enough time to resist to the necessity of delivering now curricular content through technology? In this case, there really wasn't any time to resist because everything just unfolded so quickly. Number 10, differential knowledge. If knowledge is not presented in a way that's applicable and comprehensible to curriculum workers, then we have a perceived power imbalance. Knowledge needs to be presented in a way that's practical. Power imbalance creates resistance because then it becomes a question of whose interests are being served versus who the curriculum change is intended to target. Number 11, sudden wholesale change. We're referring to changes that upset the status quo, changes that shake the foundation of normal, such as this whole COVID-19 situation. I mean, think about how quickly remote instruction launched and the impact this had on families who don't have access to the technology required. Do all students have access to laptops or desktops at home? Do they have access to Wi-Fi? Do they have distraction-free study spaces at home? there wasn't really any time for these discussions to take place, unfortunately. So for some, the resistance set in after the fact. Number 12, unique points of resistance. Unanticipated circumstances like what we're currently facing may create resistance to change. However, as we can see, embracing change is necessary to ensure the continuity of education. Other reasons that were not on this list include not having enough resources such as textbooks and technology. You need to have the adequate resources in order to make curriculum change happen. So if the resources are absent, then the support is absent. In addition, people tend to be comfortable with what already works. So we have this tendency to be creatures of habit, so to speak, and having the mentality of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Also, fear of the unknown. On page 266, it states it is more comfortable to stay with what is known than to attempt change and trigger the unknown. The unknown is scary. What are others that you can think of that I didn't mention? I'm curious to read about that. So for number 3, the question is, who are or should be the major curriculum implementation players? The text states several. So first we have students. On page 277, it states, students possess unique perspectives on their own learning and on the nature and purpose of their schooling. It is important to include students in curriculum discussions to ensure that their diverse needs are being met, and it also gives them a voice. It gives them a sense of ownership over what they get to learn, how they get to learn, and it gives them a sense that the curriculum functions to truly serve them. It gives students an active versus passive role in education. Choice and voice are empowering. Then we have teachers. Teachers should be given as many opportunities as possible to participate in professional development and opportunities to engage in collaborative dialogues regarding innovative curriculum. These activities provide teachers with a sense of ownership and power in making curriculum decisions. They're on the front lines and in touch with what the students' needs are. They're also in tune with the instructional strategies that best serve their students. Teachers also have access to knowing students more personally and can incorporate their interests in the learning experience. Then we have supervisors. Curriculum supervisors provide oversight and also provide, quote, direction and guidance and make sure that teachers have the skills necessary to carry out the change. And this is stated on page 279. Supervisors relay the importance of tailoring curriculum to what is occurring on a larger social scale. When I interviewed the district's math curriculum supervisor earlier this semester, this was one of the things she emphasized repeatedly. In a time like now, I'm certain that teachers and administrators had to turn to curriculum supervisors for guidance, especially in terms of prioritizing content in the face of uncertainty and rapid turnaround time. Then we have principals. The principal provides leadership for the school and also, quote, determines organizational climate and support the people involved in change. And that's on page 280. If principals are enthusiastic, energetic, and convey a spirit of excitement about new initiatives, then that tends to create a positive mindset among the teachers in the school. Getting teachers excited and looking forward to working with innovative curriculum initiatives is essential for building that professional capacity we talked about earlier. When I interviewed a principal, this enthusiasm was apparent as he discussed his plans to convert the school into a STEM academy. As a result, both teachers and parents have been increasingly involved in the activities offered by the school, such as STEM Family Night. This cultivates an atmosphere of collaboration, engagement, and excitement toward the intended changes. Then we have curriculum directors. On page 280, it states the curriculum directors, quote, concentrate on the overall process of curriculum development, including implementation and evaluation. They should also be involved in cultivating a spirit of excitement to increase buy-in. Curriculum directors also play an important role in capacity building, specifically professional capacity building, by sharing their knowledge with principals and teachers to give them the tools needed to support curricular initiatives. Then we have curriculum consultants, who are essentially externally hired individuals who are brought into the school to aid in implementing curricular change and provide training. On page 280, it states that these consultants cooperate with teachers in addressing some development or implementation issues. And further down, consultants can provide guidance, analysis, and critique, establish peer support systems, peer coaching and networks, and help teachers become more comfortable with and knowledgeable about innovation. Then we have parents, but I would expand this to include families, because not all students live with their parents. But it is fitting to seek input from parents and families, because they are who students spend their time with outside of school. Families can offer a unique perspective on how their child's needs outside of the school can possibly be integrated within the curriculum to truly address all areas of the student's needs. Many schools are emphasizing family involvement by creating events specifically for families, such as Back to School Night and the STEM Family Night event I alluded to earlier. We also have PTA organizations and Board of Education meetings, which are platforms that give parents and families a voice in their child's education. And then lastly, we have community. On page 282, it talks about how schools, quote, must be cognizant of the complexities within schools and communities. Inclusion of the community in education reflects an intentional effort to expand civic capacity and ensures that schools are truly serving the diverse cognitive and non-cognitive needs of students. One way I can think to approach understanding this is asking a series of questions, such as, do students live in a safe neighborhood? And if not, what resources exist in the community to provide students with a sense of safety? Do students live in a stable home? Do students live in a safe home? Do they have a home? Do students come to school hungry? Can we expect a student who lives in poverty and fear to focus on school and perform well academically? What resources can schools, in partnership with the larger community, provide to help students meet these needs? What are your thoughts on this? Is it the school's responsibility? Food for thought, right? Question number 4. Which 2 resources from the document share and links from the syllabus have you found to be most useful? The first set of links that I found to be most useful were the dual enrollment program links. It was interesting to learn more about university-high school partnerships, which are examples of civic capacity building. You have universities partnering with various districts to address the needs of different populations and creating educational pipelines. I noticed some of our feeder schools were on the list. Feeder schools essentially are schools that provide us with the greatest enrollment yield. So looking at students enrolled in these types of programs gives me, as someone who reviews admissions applications, a better picture of the students who are applying into our program. And incidentally, in September, my son is actually enrolling in a dual enrollment high school program called P-TECH here in New Brunswick. Essentially, students work simultaneously towards a high school diploma and an associate's degree in applied science. The school has an engineering focus as well as a program centered on workplace readiness, which is very interesting, and we're looking, very forward to that experience. The other link that I found helpful, was the illustrative mathematics, because this is actually the curriculum that my children's school is using. My students attend school in New Brunswick, so getting to know more about what my children are learning in schools and how that learning is structured, it's helpful to me as a parent to know what my students, I'm calling them my students, my children are learning, how they're learning. After the curriculum mapping experience, it gives me a better appreciation of how the curriculum is put together for them, and I can understand it, when it references a standard, I know what that means, so it's very insightful. And the last question is, After viewing Did You Know?, reflect and share your thoughts on how the information presented impacts curriculum. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this video was, wow, technology is really taking over. The part where it talked about preparing our students for jobs that don't exist yet was exciting yet a little scary to me, because one can only think, what's next? In addition to getting viewers to open their eyes to the tremendous impact of technology and the inevitability of change, I think it's prepping us for what's to come. And the only way we're going to successfully navigate these impending changes, as well as help our students and children navigate these changes, is for us to be open-minded and embrace the changes that are coming. Facing the unknown is part of our journey as educators. This rings true now more than ever as we come together and rise to the challenge during this unprecedented time. We will need to continue this momentum and spirit of togetherness to be able to successfully and fearlessly face all that is to come. So that concludes my response. Thanks again for watching this video, and please let me know if any part of the video resonated with you or if you have any questions for me. I'm looking forward to your feedback. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay positive. Thanks, bye.